Hi, friends, and welcome to another episode of Tuesday Tea Time with Sahdi and Omni, where we drink the tea and spill the tea about our weekly spiritual practices. I'm Omni.
And I'm Sahdi.
And today's episode is all about spirit animals. Sadi's going to start out this episode and talk about totems, familiars, and spirit animal guides. And then I'm going to end the episode in a personal experience I had. It was a whole day, but it ended in a guided meditation to meet my spirit animals. And that was a whole thing.
Yeah, I think you guys are really going to like it because it's so interesting the way, Omni, that you found your spirit guide animals.
Yeah.
And I think that anybody listening that's wanting to find out how to do it for themselves, stay tuned and listen to what Omni says.
I made it way more complicated than it is, honestly, in my head.
Right.
Sadi has a really good information about different kinds of spirit guides that are animals and what they are and how to connect with them too.
Yep. Us as humans, we run off of 5 elements, right? So earth, water, fire, air, and the 5th element is spirit or ether.
Yeah.
Animals, they run off of 4. They just run off of earth, fire, water, and air. And that's how they stay plugged into the natural matrix.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's the real matrix, not the digital one. Mother Nature's grid.
Okay.
Different animals represent different aspects of nature. When you really start to understand that, you start realizing that certain animals naturally seem to resonate with certain people because they mirror the elemental energy that already mirror what's inside of you. So that's why shamans are so powerful, because they've learned how to tap into the elements at will.
Oh, okay.
And they don't just call in the animal, they become the animal. They don't just pray to nature, they move with her as that animal when they're invoking the energy of that animal. When you start noticing people, you'll see it. Some people naturally are like water. They're deep feelers, they're emotional, they're intuitive, and they can shapeshift like rivers or crash like waves. And then some people are more like air. They're talkers. They have that gift of gab, you know?
Me.
Yeah. And they're always in motion and they're channeling messages and they're thinking 10 steps ahead. And then you've got the fire people. They're like warriors. They can take negative situations and use alchemy and transmute it into positive things. They can burn things and turn it into powerful things, or sometimes they can just explode. You never know, implode, whatever.
Yeah.
And then there's earth people, and they're more of the rooted ones. They have a tendency to be grounded and loyal and still, but really solid people. And they might not move fast, but when they do, it's like lasting. It's real. Within each one of those elements, there's an animal that echoes the same frequency.
Okay.
And your spirit animal is going to match the essence that you already carry inside of your soul. Your animal guide is going to reflect a powerful truth about who you are. And it's an energetic match. It mirrors your element and your gifts and your soul's way of literally walking through this world. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with your astrological sign or anything like that. So now we can talk about animal totems, which is different. A totem animal isn't always your spirit animal, but it's energy that you can summon and work with whenever you want to.
Okay.
Let's say you're not naturally a lion in your day-to-day life, but you have a battle ahead of you, or something where you need a lot of courage or protection, and you can call in a lion energy as a totem.
Okay, like invoking it.
Yes.
In our episode about shape shifting, you take on the attributes of them?
Yes,
Oh, okay,
exactly, right? And there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. You can get a bone or a feather or a claw or a piece of the animal's. You know, you don't want to kill the animal or anything to do that ethically. Or you can take some of its fur, or you can use a crystal carving of the animal that you're trying to invoke, or a wooden figure or a piece of jewelry. You can even draw or paint the animal that you're trying to create a visual anchor. And then you just activate it. And you can do like a little ritual and speak your intentions to it, and you can program it to do what you want it to do for you.
Okay.
And you can put it like in a little mojo bag with different herbs or however you want to do it.
What if you have a tattoo of an animal?
Yeah, that would be
one that you want to invoke a lot.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, you could even go a step farther. They can put ash into tattoos now. So if you really wanted to go hard with really invoking an animal spirit into your body like that through tattoos,
Yeah.
you could have an animal cremated and turned to ash and have that ash put into the tattoo of that animal into your body. That would be pretty powerful.
Yeah.
That would be crazy.
Yeah.
And then it could be like, I call in the strength of the lion. If we're talking about a lion, the courage to speak and protect and lead, whatever it is that you want to bring in to that energy.
Yeah.
And you anchor that into your body, into your spirit. And then you can carry it with you. You can keep it on your altar. You can wear it on your body. You can sleep with it under your pillow. It's not a channel at that point. It's a key that you can pick up and unlock those parts of yourself anytime you want to.
Right.
You're not just wearing a wolf necklace because it looks cool.
Even though it does.
Yep. You're summoning the spirit of that animal towards you because you've activated that pendant.
Yeah.
You've connected with the energy of the wolf.
Like we talk about in our episode of Left-Handed Magic.
Mm-hmm.
This is a couple years ago now, man. When I started to just get into bone magic and I started practicing with it, when you get the bone, you connect with the animal, and that's what bone magic is, what you're talking about. It's cool to understand it because I'm thinking about my mindset a couple years ago when it was like, wow, that's so foreign, that's so weird because it was so new. And now looking at it with experience and how powerful and magical and beautiful it is and empowering.
I love that. You've come a long way, Omni.
Oh, like reflection.
Right. And it's true. When you're using it as a totem, you're pulling in all of the energy that you need anytime you want it.
Yes.
And you know how to respect it and activate it and walk with it and channel it. And it's just beautiful.
It is. I mean, Native Americans, if you think about the buffalo, they use every piece of a buffalo.
Oh, yes, they do.
They use the skin, the fur. They nourish themselves with the body because it was sacred and because it nourished their body. They respected it in such a way. And then invoking the animal and the spirit and taking it into them. And it's such a beautiful ritual.
And then that leads us into the third one that I wanted to talk about was familiars. Before I really started to understand, I was confused between the familiars and the totem animals and the spirit guides and how all that works. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so it can be a little bit confusing. So your familiar doesn't necessarily have to be anything like your spirit animal or animals. And it's not based on your element either. A familiar is more like a soul companion.
Yes.
It's usually an animal that walks with you through your mess and your healing and your power and your magic. And you've probably seen it in stories for a reason. There's that one show, I don't know if you've seen it, it's called The Golden Compass. It's where everybody has these so-called demons and they're born with them. And each person has an animal that follows them from birth until death. And it wasn't a pet, it was their soul on the outside.
Oh, wait, I have seen
And
this.
it would take a form as an animal.
Yeah, it's been a minute, though,
Yeah,
man.
it was like a while back.
Yeah,
right. And
I
then
forgot
like
about
Harry
that.
Potter, how each witch or wizard or whatever had a magical companion, like an owl or a cat or a frog or whatever.
Yeah.
Witches have known this for centuries.
Yes.
And shamans walk with them in dreams, and familiars are real on an energetic level.
Oh, yeah.
They truly are. I've met mine on the other side in another dimension. And then she ended up coming to me right after I met her in a different vibration. It can be a physical animal, like a pet that's been with you through lifetimes, or it can be energetic. Your spirit animal does not have to be here with you in this lifetime. It can be one that just keeps showing up in your dreams or your meditations or your visions. Could be a big dog that sat by you during your first heartbreak.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a black cat that always comes to you.
I've talked about that before. I have 2 cats and I love them both dearly, but my black cat walks with me in dreams.
What familiars do is they help amplify your magic, and they protect your energy. They let you know when something's wrong. And some even take on your pain.
Yeah.
So you can keep going. That's their mission. That's their job. When they talk about service animals and therapy dogs.
Or cats having 9 lives.
Yeah. So you don't really summons a familiar like you do a totem. You meet it when your magic gets stronger or during a point in your life where you need them.
Yeah.
It's almost like a soul contract. While your spirit animal reflects your soul's energy, your familiar is a spiritual ally.
Yeah.
But it's always personal and you can feel it. You just know. And you don't know how you know, you just do. Now that I went over all of them, I want to go back to your actual spirit animal or your daemon or whatever you want to call it. Some people call it that. This is the one, or sometimes many, that have been with you since before you got here. It's the animal that is attached to your soul. It's like a fingerprint in creature form, if you want to look at it like that. It reflects your core and your power and your instincts more than anything. Some people have only one main spirit animal that stays with them, and some have three, like a trinity.
Yeah.
And some have more.
Some come and go, right?
Yeah, some of them come in for different seasons of their life. And each one shows up when a part of our soul is ready to activate.
Yes.
This animal or animals, they're not just there to guide you. They are you. And that's the difference between the other two. They're not separate from you. They are you. They're not just there to guide you. They're you just in a different shape. So they show you and they reflect to you and they walk beside you through your transformation. When you're in alignment, you move like them and you feel like them and you become them. And it reminds me of, I was just working with Medusa and I was really heavy into the snake energy. I was shedding physically and emotionally and releasing spiritual weight. And I was shedding like a snake. And it was so beautiful and so painful and so deep. And I totally embodied snake energy. My kundalini activated in a way that it never activated before, where I was actually speaking in tongues.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was incredible. So I know for a fact, if I had any question before what one of my main spirit animals are, it is the snake.
Yeah.
It's during moments like that, you become them because they are you. It's just a different aspect of you. And it feels so natural to do that. And so here's a few of the ways that you can tell if you've met your true spirit animal. It keeps showing up when your soul shifts. This animal will appear to you in dreams, on your path, in synchronicities, especially during times where you're having deep emotional change or a spiritual awakening or a major life crossroads. It's not just one time. It keeps coming back over and over and over through your life. For example, if you're going through shadow work and all of a sudden crows won't leave you alone.
Yep.
And in dreams, you're having dreams about crows, and in real life and the tarot cards, and they're just everywhere. They're messengers. Then that's probably a sign that that's one of your animal spirit guides. And then the second one is you feel this deep ancestral pull. And it's more than just, oh, I think that animal's cool. You might feel really emotional or protective or even cry sometimes when you see it, or want to cry when you see this animal. It feels like it's a part of you, and not in your mind, but in your bones. You know, when you see it, you're like, oh, that's my spirit animal. And you just maybe even say it, just connect with it for some reason. Like, say you've always loved jaguars, but when you see one on TV or a documentary or something like that, your body responds like it remembers something about it. And then the third one that I can really think of is you embody its energy without trying. Your empowered or your intuitive self acts like that animal.
A hyena? No.
Hyena.
Just kidding.
Watch yours be a dolphin. The way
Oh
you
my
laugh.
God.
It's in your laugh.
I mean, they're smart.
I mean, I'll never forget when you told me you laugh like a dolphin, and now I cannot unhear it. You're just embodying your... So you act like that animal, not just in personality, but in your rhythm, right? Like your instincts or your boundaries or the way you move through the world. Say that you notice that you stalk your goals like a panther. You're quiet and intentional. You take in your power. Nothing's wasted. Yeah. Like no wasted motions. Then you're moving like that animal. I don't know what mine would be with my behavior. A squirrel. I'm going to bury this nut for later and forget where it is. Oh, a tree grew there. Cool.
Nature. You're welcome.
Nature. Yay. So yeah, there's lots of ways to find out.
Yeah.
You can do your research on it. I really like to pay attention to my dreams, meditation. I'm really into plant medicine. So you can take guided journeys through plant medicine of your choice.
Yeah.
And really go in with the intention to find out who your spirit animal is. And then Omni, you just
Did
a ceremony and a guided meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us about your day. Tell us what happened.
I decided to go on a hike through the woods to a waterfall by myself. Through part of that hike, I was called to take my shoes off and walk in the dirt barefoot, which doesn't seem so crazy because I do that on the beach, but I never have done that on a hike in the woods. But I did.
Because like sticks, pine cones, all that stuff, right?
But through this part, it was just soft dirt. And then later on, as I'm hiking, I see a little kid run across and I just get this inner dialogue going where I start reflecting on kids and how innocent they are. But a lot of us as adults mistake that innocence for ignorance. And yes, on the third dimension, kids are ignorant and we should lead them and try to mentor them as such, but it should be an energy exchange or more so of one, because kids are spiritually wise. They are tapped into source. Think about when you were a kid. When I was a kid, I was astral projecting every night. I was seeing spirits all the time.
Flying in my dreams.
Yeah, they remember their past lives.
What if we have our kids and their souls come to us to teach us just as much as we're teaching them, if not more?
That would make sense, right?
Maybe we're not supposed to raise them. They're coming here to help raise our consciousness.
Yes. But that was the conversation, and my inner dialogue and reflection was, Sahdi, how you had talked about every time you give a reading, you learn something. So it's an energy exchange. It made me think about my friend that does Reiki. Every time she heals somebody, she's healing herself. And then the yin and the yang and the tree of life, and how everything is a balance, it's a give and take, and how we should learn from children as much as we try to teach them. And I feel like there's an imbalance. I take responsibility as an adult to that as well, but it was just a reflection. I was walking in the woods. And then the third thing was I came upon this tree. It's all connected, but this tree was huge and gnarled, and it looked like there was a portal under it.
Didn't it look like you could just walk through the tree?
You could walk under it.
Yeah. When you took a picture and showed it to me, I was like, it looked like you could just walk straight through the tree.
And I was like, we should do an episode on portals.
How did it grow like that? That's so cool.
Yeah. Something to that tree is a very powerful feeling. And before I went on this hike, I was sending Sahdi a voice clip and I said, "Oh, bird." And Sahdi goes, "Oh my gosh, you just triggered."
Oh yeah,
my
that's
dream.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was hours after I woke up and I totally forgot about my dream. But real quick, in my dream, there was a bunch of crows and they hit a glass window and it triggered the entire dream just from Omni saying, "Oh, look, a bird." While she was in the woods doing this. And this was on the day that she went to go get her meditation.
Yeah.
To find her spirit animal. So this is all going to make sense.
Yeah. Your dream was about a bunch of crows hitting the window at your house, right? The sliding
glass door.
And then one came into your house.
Oh yeah, the crow came into my house and he had green eyes.
Yep.
And he walked in and I was like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" It felt like he was my familiar. He felt familiar to me.
Yeah.
And he walked in, I was trying to help him out. And I'm like, "Oh my God, are you all right?" I was giving him food, trying to nurture him. And we had a conversation in my dream and then he was about to go. And I was like, "Well, are you going to come back later?" And he's like, "Yeah, now that I know your location, I'll be back." And he left. He like walked out the door like he was a little person.
Yeah. She's like, "It wasn't weird in my dream that we were talking."
Yeah.
So she told me about this and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. Whatever." A couple weeks before this, came across this man in Portland, this older gentleman that makes drums from the skins of different animals. And I was called to go get a drum from him that was made out of buffalo skin. I was just called to the buffalo. And this is before I even knew about meditation, before it was scheduled or anything. And I went in there and I was like, "Well, I really want a buffalo kit." And he was like, "Those are really hard to stretch over, just so you know, because it's a kit that you make yourself." And he goes, I have one drum already made, and it's a buffalo drum. And it was for the exact amount I said in my head that I could spend. Foreshadowing. Flash forward to the night we did the meditation. We started out doing 30 minutes of yoga, and then she had us lay out. And there was like 24 people there. So there's a lot of different energies in there. And we're laying down. And she did this technique that I read in a book when I was young, like 10. It was about astral projection. and you think about in your mind's eye where you're laying at. And wherever you're laying at, you think about your spirit sitting up and looking at your feet like something physical, and then you wiggle your toes. And that was one of the techniques to astral project. So I thought that was interesting. She used that. So she's like, I want you to think about sitting up and looking at your feet and wiggle your toes. And then she's like, now I want you to walk to the corner of the room and find a staircase. And in my head, I'm like, it's a spiral staircase. And she goes, it's a spiral staircase.
Right.
I was like, okay. She's like, now you walk down into the abyss, down and down and down. And, you know, she's speaking very calm. And then she goes, then you see this light. You hit the bottom of the stairs and you're watching your bare feet. And you're in a forest and your feet are walking on soft dirt. And I was like, what the fuck?
Because you just did that earlier that day in the actual forest.
And I'm picturing in my mind, me in the forest I was just in hours before.
It's like deja vu almost.
I was a little like, wow, like not freaked out, but like, holy shit, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because I was called to do that on my walk and it was soft dirt where I was at. I was like, okay. And she goes, I need you to find a tree. Of course. I think about
the tree with a portal.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I'm like, okay. And I'm almost standing there. I'm like, this is wild. And when I first laid down before the meditation, I could feel like an energetic sniffing on my face, almost like a puppy licking at my face. And I remember thinking, is one of my spirit animals a puppy? I would never think of a puppy, you know? Right. I love dogs. I love me some puppies, but I don't ever think of that as an animal guide, you know?
Right.
So I'm at the base of the tree and she goes, I want you to call forth your first spirit animal. And I'm like, okay, that seems too easy, but I did. And I pictured myself closing my eyes and breathing in and then opened my eyes and a wolf was there with green eyes. When you think of a wolf, you think of scary or intimidating or strong.
Right.
But my wolf was super affectionate. And he was licking my face and rubbing up on me and being super cuddly. She goes, all right, I'm going to give you 2 minutes with your spirit animal to get whatever message they have for you. I'm like, okay. And he didn't talk to me, but he showed me a picture of me laying in my bed. And this is getting a little personal, but let's be personal. I went through a breakup a little over a year ago. And one of the hard transitions for me was sleeping alone in my bed. And so a lot of times I'll sleep with a heating pad, kind of simulate somebody sleeping next to me. And it helps me go to sleep at night. And he showed me laying there and him laying next to me. And he then said, you're not alone. I'm there with you. It's okay. I start crying. Like, oh my God. She's like, all right, release them back into the forest. She goes, now I want you guys to shrink down to the size of an ant, to the base of the tree, to the roots, which Sahdi, when I told you this the first time, you said the roots symbolize ancestry.
Right.
And I didn't even think about that until she said that. And she goes, call in your second one. And a baby female elephant showed up and she was playful. She wasn't affectionate, but she was wagging her trunk like a puppy tail. And she was so cute. And she goes, you remember that reflection you had in the woods today about the kids? And as much as you want to teach them, you should learn from them. And I was like, yeah. She goes, that was me. She goes, whenever you think of your inner child, you think of a child that was eaten and broken and abused. But you were very spiritually wise as a child. So as much work as you've done on healing your inner child, you should want to learn from her too. And that was my message to you today. And I was just in awe. I was like, that is so profound. And from a little childlike spirit animal, you know?
Little playful.
Yeah.
We have a tendency to only focus on, the alcoholic part and the toxic parts and stuff like that of our root system dating back, but we don't really focus on the artists and the seers,
the musicians,
the really cool parts of our ancestral line.
Yeah.
And even if it's attached to some negative parts of those people, they really had some gifts within them.
Yeah,
as
to
well,
learn
that they
from.
passed down.
It should be an energy exchange, right?
Yeah.
Like
so
everything.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And then she goes, all right, send them off. And she ran off into the forest.
Okay.
Weird. It was awesome. She goes, I either want you to grow to the size of the top of the tree or I want you to climb to the top of it. I thought about growing, but then I climbed it. I got to the very top of the branch and all of a sudden this big ass crow. I didn't know if it was a raven or a crow because I know ravens are huge, but I really feel like it was a crow. And I put my arm out for it to land on and I could feel the weight of it. I could feel my arm weighing down and it had green eyes. And I didn't make the connection to Sahdi's dream until after the fact. He was kind of mean. He wasn't mean. He was stern.
That's how he was in my dream too. That's weird. He almost had like an attitude.
Yeah.
Like he was better than everybody else.
He just goes, You know, your dreams, you need to get on that. I will admit, I have all the tools in my toolbox to lucid dream. We did a whole episode on it,
Yep.
but my discipline is lacking. And he's like, you need to get on that. And then he flew away. It was like a 5-second interaction.
Yeah.
And like the rest of the 2 minutes, I'm sitting there, like laying there while everybody else is talking to their spirit animals. I'm like, what the fuck? Okay.
I love it.
Okay.
Sounds like the same crow that was in my dream.
Right?
Wouldn't that be cool if we shared the same spirit?
Girl, we are sisters. We are soul
Yeah.
sisters for sure.
That'd be crazy.
I don't put it past it.
Your spirit animal could have gone into my dream to awaken you.
Yep.
Because why, when you said, oh, look, a bird, did it trigger my dream?
Yeah.
Because I remember my dreams when I wake up in the morning.
I know, right?
I write them down. I dissect my dreams every single day when I lucid dream. And I did not remember that dream until I heard your voice and you said, look, a bird.
Yeah.
So it
brought
might
that
not
up.
have anything to do with me, actually. And he was a bit of a, not really like a dick. I imagine him, not to stereotype gays. Swag.
Diva.
They got diva energy. It was a male with a very diva energy.
I can see that.
He came in and shook his feathers and
Yeah.
he was like, oof.
Yeah.
And then he talked to me for a little bit. He was cool. And then he was like, yeah, I got your location. I'll be back.
Yeah.
But the way he walked and strutted and like very confident.
Yeah.
And very in his power.
Yeah.
But also like, bye.
Bye, bitch.
He's almost like came to give me maybe a message for you.
That resonates.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
Because
Yeah.
he can't get through to you in your dreams because you're undisciplined.
I know, right?
So he had to come through me.
And then I had the
to
guided
get to you.
meditation, and he's like, you need to get on that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. That does resonate because that's the attitude he gave me. And I just sat there, like, laid there.
And he had green eyes.
And he had green eyes. And so did my wolf. My elephant did not. But then she has to walk back up the stairs and into our bodies. And the whole time that this is going on, the whole meditation, I can feel a huge buffalo, like the size of a truck behind me. Throughout the whole meditation, throughout every spirit guide coming to me, I could feel this buffalo behind me, but he never came into view. But I felt him there. She called us back to our bodies and she's like, all right, well, I'm going to go over you guys with a drum. And I thought of my buffalo drum for the next however long and let you reflect on your messages from your spirit animals. And as she's going through with her drum, I get sucked into a prairie. And I'm like, what the fuck? And there's a huge buffalo beside me. I got the message, do not pet me. Do not kiss on me. I'm not affectionate. You cannot ride me, but you can put your hand on my side. And we were walking down this prairie. And he said to me, I have always been here and I will always be here. And until that point, I didn't realize that we had a spirit animal that was with us from the time we were born to the time we die. I had discovered that we have a primary spirit guide that is, but not a spirit animal. And that's very much what he said to me very clearly. And as I'm walking with him with my hand on his side, he gave me the message that when I'm walking on my path, that I cannot ride him, but I can put my hand on him to help guide me. I can lean on him if I need to. He will keep me on a straight path. But I still got to walk that on my own. And I was like, damn. And then she's like, okay, we're done. I'm like, what the fuck? I got sucked back into my body. And so everybody's sharing their stories. Like some girl got a fox that was very cunning. This other girl said she had an eagle that lifted her up off the top of the tree and said, trust your wings, and dropped her. And she didn't hit the ground. She flew. I was like, that's cool.
Shit.
Mine was a dick.
Yours was like, do better and flew away.
Flew away from me. I was like, okay. Like, no wonder my first two were so nice. You would hurt my feelings. No, but it was super cool. And honestly, I made it way harder than it had to be. Dedicate some time to it. I know there's guided meditations on YouTube or there's these classes around, guys, and you can do this 100%. And every single person in that room had an experience, and there was 24 of them.
Or just every night before you go to bed, ask your spirit animal to come to you.
Yeah.
And pay attention to your dreams. If you can't do that, if you can't afford a class, ask for it in your dreams.
Yeah. And then pay attention to your surroundings in your waking life. Like she mentioned, now that you guys met your spirit animals, you're going to see them a lot more in real life. And we went to dinner with a couple that was there, and one of them had a snake. Our server had a snake tattoo on his arm, and she goes, is that a snake tattoo? And he's like, yep. And we're like, do you like snakes? He's like, no, my friend just did it. And we're like, how synchronistic is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I believe that's all the tea we have to spill for today. So make sure you keep your minds open.
Namaste, bitches.